Sorry. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the new and improved 6:30 edition of the Ashland School Board. Thank you. This is the meeting of the regular session, August 14th, 2025. Let the record show that all 5 directors are present. And per Oregon law, we are now recording all our meetings. So I will also announce that the meeting is currently being recorded. We will start with the land acknowledgement. Do I have any volunteers to read the land acknowledgement tonight? One of our student reps, maybe?
We acknowledge that the sacred land that we live and learn on today belongs to the Takelma, Shasta, Modoc, Klamath, and Umpqua peoples. We honor and acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we now call the United States. We recognize the Native American peoples' continuing connection to the land, place, waters, and community. We pay our respects to their culture, country, and elders, past, present, and emerging.
All right, thank you, Alice. Okay, so our first item is adoption of the agenda. So I will take a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, and next up we have the consent agenda, which includes this month approval of meetings of last month's session, as well as our board retreat, our personnel report for August, board meeting schedule for the coming year 25-26, review of the superintendent evaluation process, board superintendent operating agreements for this coming year, policy review process, YMCA MOUs, and the bond report for July 2020. Oh no, I'm sorry. That is the next item. So only through the YMCA MOUs. So I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Unless.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Okay, so next, number 5, is the bond report with Steve Mitzel and Josh Whitaker. Come on up.
I was just getting settled in.
This is much better.
Yeah, which one?
Moving right along.
One in the middle. This one right here. Yeah. While I'm getting this loaded, I will say we are getting down to possibly the last few meetings that we'll have Josh Whitaker with us as we work towards the end of the bond here. And we're going to give you an update on the high school. I'll let him share the details, but we were pleased to do our punch walk today on most of the building. So that means we're just going through and taking care of the last little bits of things. All the fences are down. Within probably 30 seconds, we had staff walking down the stairs and onto the quad, and they just kept coming. I don't know where they came from, but fences came down and they just converged on the campus. So we're thrilled with how it turned out, but I'll let Josh jump into the details.
Yeah, so starting out with the modernization project, for everybody that's been kind of following along, one piece that has been a little behind the rest of the project was the chiller and gear installation. So that's all functional now. It's been fired up. It's operating. They're working through some of the air balance and commissioning part of that. So that's really kind of the last piece of actual construction. The rest of it is just going to be closing out, commissioning, and then a few final punch items. So that project is just about wrapped up and anticipated being on schedule for completion by the end of the month.
And just for clarity, that's to bring cool air into the gyms. And I walked into the small gym yesterday and it was like an ice box in there. So it's doing its job.
Yep. And then as far as the seismic project, trying to keep it to last month's update because a lot has even happened in the last 2 weeks. But so the end of July, really the majority of again, the construction and the seismic retrofit aspect of the project has been completed. Interior spaces were starting to be turned over at the middle of July, so ahead of schedule. A lot of those spaces we've already punched, as Steve noted. We were kind of doing iterative punch walks instead of waiting until the project's entirely complete so we can turn over spaces as soon as we can to teachers. So the interior is pretty much wrapped up. We were able to capitalize on a carpet replacement project. So that's kind of the last piece of the interior. And then we punched the exterior today. The majority of that was complete at the end of July. So the quad had a few pavers that were kind of the last piece of the quad renovation. We still have a kiosk to finish and a shade sail canopy that's going to go over one of the elevated areas. So project's wrapping up as a whole, like kind of a great aspect of the overall bond, and definitely the high school. It's a good way to end. So.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail on the quad because I'd like to hear from the students, because we did a tour with student leadership and a couple of staff members from the high school, and we'll let them share their experience on entering the quad for the first time with all the renovations. So any questions?
So the seismic project, will that be continuing through the start of the year, or is that expected to be complete also?
No, we're wrapping that up right now.
Excellent.
Yeah, this month. There's a few, I'm just trying to think, there's a few items like the sail shade cloth, the sail shades out on the quad. Those are due early October, so that's gonna be a late installation. I think the kiosk is gonna be done. There's a few other little details, but there's nothing functional or mechanical about it that's not finished and wrapped up.
Nothing unexpected.
Yeah, we do not have stripes in the parking lot yet, which is disconcerting, but they said they would get there when they got there, and that's what we're waiting for, is for them to get there. So we're hoping that gets in before the staff comes back, but we're waiting. That's just a few little things that we got to wrap up. So.
This is a question for the student board reps. You might cover this in your report, but are you guys stoked to have this done while you're still in high school?
Yeah, I'll touch on that, but I know a lot of students who had construction happen at AMS also are really stoked to have for their senior year a complete campus to be at for the first time in whatever 7 years.
Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have an update on the ASD housing project with Matt Elin.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Matt Elin with Elin and Company. I know a lot of you. I don't know everyone in this room, so it's good to finally put some faces to names. Today, what we're going to be doing is this is for you to give you context as to where we're at in the process of the project. There's been a lot happening since January, when we really kicked off and started moving the ball forward with the district. And you know, what I'd like to do is kind of go back through what has been done and look forward to the next few months of what is yet to occur, and what we think those key hurdles and timelines are relative to this group and relative to the district. We are in a diligence phase. That's what this period is for. Throw all the questions out. There are no stupid questions and no dumb ideas type of a position. What our goal and hope during this period of time is to really coalesce around the key elements of the project that we are going to be including, detailed financing so we can understand and really look at the overall pro forma and financial assessment for the project. And then really critically work in collaboration with the district to determine more fully what the goals and outcomes of a project like this should be, and being able to answer and address those outcomes. I mean, at the end of the day, the goal is, and as we feel very blessed and very fortunate to have been selected back in December. Now at this point, it's the district and the development team as one team trying to help come up with solutions that are best for the district. That's how we view it, and we hope that that's the way we can move forward together. Looking back, so this project, of course, was conceived well before we were ever involved, but the focus of the project was largely around addressing declining enrollment. Since my wife when she started, I think it was her kindergarten year was the largest enrollment year. It was about 3,500 students. Today, that's about a third less than what it was then. And we're looking, I think, Dan, another 10 years from now, about another third potentially coming out. Because as we've seen, the housing costs in Ashland have made it, for many, very cost prohibitive to live in the district. And so this was a project that was conceived as an opportunity to help curb that and be able to increase that enrollment and thus increase revenues back to the district. The goals within that was to focus predominantly on affordability. Metrics from around the state, from other precedent projects, look at affordability as a key metric. By today's standards, at roughly about $750,000 thereabouts for housing costs, you got to earn about $144,000 to live in Ashland today, and that's not everybody. And so this project was conceived with the idea to maximize affordability and thereby increase enrollment, and therefore. The focus was predominantly on low income to middle income housing, so 80 to 120% of median income, that's that middle income tranche. That is for education, it's about $73,000, about $121,000 a year. And then 80% and below. So that is 0 to about $74,000 a year. The 0 to 80%, that's typically uses tax credit financing and other various capital sources to make that happen. And then the 80 to 120 is a very challenging tranche to do, but a very important piece is that does cover within the tranche of what's needed in the community to be able to effectively bring in those families. The goal of that project was also to create a diverse mix of housing, focusing in on larger 2 and 3 bedroom units, again, focusing in on families and subsequently also staff housing and housing for members of the district. Let's see, hold on. And then within that, of course, providing various different programming that then further incentivizes that. We were, like I said, we feel very blessed to have been chosen and have been working diligently on advancing the program that we had proposed back in November and selected in December, moving that forward. It began with the ENA, the exclusive negotiation agreement with the district. For those of you, I know there was a lot of back and forth around that ENA. Just for reference, that ENA specifically outlines, one, that we are working in collaboration together and solely with this group, and then really paves, I think, what I call the rules of the road for this period of diligence, where we're all working to determine the project and ultimately what constitutes project success. That ENA has since been executed, and we've been moving forward. That was executed tail end of July. And so what that means is over the next 6 months, there's one option for extension beyond that. We're working towards what's called a development and disposition agreement. Basically, it's the deal structure between the district and the development team that constitutes something that we all feel we can move forward with, and will eventually be something that this board will have to review and ultimately vote on. We have concurrent to that process, the ENA took a long time to go back and forth and really get that down in a way that was best for all parties. But during that time period, we've been doing a series of what we refer to as community-led design forums. So in a project like this, we only know so much. What is going to be best informed for the success of the project is getting that feedback. So from late February through early May, we conducted a series of community-led design forums with the general public, forums with teachers and staff, with civic leaders, with members of the community, first and foremost to present the project, to show them kind of, here's what we got, and really get feedback. And so while we weren't necessarily putting pen to paper and advancing, because until we had that agreement in place, it was really hard to really invest a lot of dollars in it, we were getting information every single time we had those meetings, so that now as we sit advancing design forward, we can do so as informed as we can from that period of time. Along that period of time as well. So in affordable housing, and happy to go further into detail, not in this meeting, capitalizing those is very hard. And so one of the key pieces of that capital stack is looking for non-dilutive forms of funding, grant funding in particular. During that period of time, so from January to date, we've raised almost $1 million in non-dilutive grant funding through various sources throughout the state, OHCS being a predominant one through Build Up Oregon. And that's for parts and pieces of the project and the project as a whole. I bring that up, one, because it's awesome. It's really exciting that we're seeing that kind of investment from the state. And two, it's a really big testament to what this project means for the state of Oregon. We are getting constantly asked by municipalities from around the state who are looking at this as a potential model for how other communities can address similar types of conditions and similar circumstances. So it's really exciting to see the state put money like that into the project, even at this stage, which is very conceptual and very early. Like I said, we executed the exclusive negotiation agreement, pardon me, and then have moved forward with our early schematic design. And then lastly, during that period of time, we did submit the project for early intake with the city of Ashland. This is a part of the planning process where we submit kind of the earliest level of the master plan that was presented to the board back in November, really for feedback. And they were, of course, they not only were they very positive, they're very excited about the opportunity to have more affordable housing in the city of Ashland. The other big piece, they gave us great information back on things to consider, really helpful to the project as a whole. Again, it's a very preliminary piece, but they have been, to date, very, very supportive. During that, from that, and from all of that learning that we've done, we have now, after the execution of the ENA, now that we've got that agreement in place, we've started to advance that diligence and invest dollars back into the project. So the first key piece is working with Chris here and an architect on advancing the design. So taking all that we've learned during that period of time and putting those into those plans with the goal of getting better and more refined pricing for the project. So Outlier, once that is solidified, and we just received a first pass on that revised schematic design plan, we'll be taking that and going forward and doing further revisions and further pricing on that program so that we can start to put the parts and pieces together for project financing for this group to review at some point. That process has led to increasing their 2 and 3 bedrooms. So the majority of the project to date is largely focused on larger family size units. Again, that being a predominant goal. We got a lot of good feedback from the teachers as well. What housing is going to be accretive from a staff perspective. Again, we need more students, but we also need to make sure that we have staff that can live and work within a reasonable proximity. So it's good to get that feedback. It's allowed us to advance a piece of the project that I think was really exciting. It was an exciting piece to include during our submission, which is a home ownership model, affordable home ownership model through the land trust. So we've been advancing those. Those are a series of townhomes. So the project A will have about 12 to 14 of those. And then the bulk of the remaining housing today is planned to be affordable housing using 4% low-income housing tax credits, which is the non-competitive tax credits. They're easier to secure, and because the property is within a designated zone that makes it really accretive for tax credit financing, it's the most effective way to get the broadest range of affordability. So that'll offer through those tax credits housing. The average housing is offered to those who earn about 60% of median income. So if 80 is about 74, back that down, it's in the $60,000 range a year. But it goes upwards of 80. So we can do an income averaging. So we'll be able to offer housing for those between about 30 to 40% of median income up to about 80% of median income. So really looking at getting as much of that breadth of affordability in there as we possibly can, again, which we've seen demonstrated in increasing that enrollment and really being a positive force to meet the goals that the project had originally intended. Within that, we focused on 2 additional kind of core value areas. One, accessibility, project accessibility, largely around ADA compliance, beyond just ADA compliance, looking at how the building is facilitating opportunities for all. And then environmental resiliency, not just sustainability, but really thinking about the climate we live in today and the climate we're living in the future, and how is this project being supportive of those needs. Next steps. And I think this is the big thing, and this is where I'm going to be looking to this group, also looking to our group. As I said, we're in the diligence phase. We are looking for information, and this is about information gathering and answering questions. Oops, sorry, I think I triggered someone's Siri. During this period of time, like I said, we're going to be taking those advanced plans, and we're going to be working with Outlier to formalize those numbers. We have a big, especially we've got, part of this process, part of the program includes early childhood education. That's a really critical piece, and there's a really big grant opportunity coming up in September. So we're going to be focusing in the short term really on advancing that so that we can put our best foot forward. There's about $2 billion. The maximum grant value is about $2 million for new facilities. That would be in addition to the $750,000 we've already received for that. Again, showing the state's priority. We think that's a really great opportunity, so we want to get that in a great position. As well as getting the housing underwritten. And when we talk about this affordable housing and when we sit down, what we're looking for is, can the sources of funding fill the use of the project? So we're not solving for return. What we're solving for is do we have a gap? And how big is that gap? And can we meet that gap? So we're already having conversations with the state, having conversations with organizations like the Oregon Community Foundation and groups like that, who would be really, really strong supporters of helping make that and facilitate that going forward. We'll be working on that. Concurrently, we'd like to set up a meeting, and we'll be working with Joseph and his team to set that up where we can meet again with the board to provide a series of questions that we will need from you so that you guys can think about and work on responses and even probably questions back. That's what we're targeting for sometime this fall, hopefully in September for that meeting. Again, we would love to get an opportunity to, we want to coalesce on what constitutes project success. That's the goal. And that would be an opportunity for us to say, hey, here's information we need from you guys. Let's get that feedback so that we can incorporate that into the process and into what will eventually be a review of the project, review of its financials. Do we have a project that we think can work? And does it meet those goals of maximizing the output for the district, whether it's from a dollars and cents perspective, whether it's from an enrollment perspective? Again, these are metrics that I want us to define so that we are all in concert as we make those decisions to move forward. The goal from that, assuming that we feel like we're in a good spot, we'll be putting together a term sheet, which will become the framework for that DDA. So a lot of work between now and hopefully, October, November, we can be in a really strong position to have those answers, to be able to have a comprehensive discussion with the team, the district as part of that team, so that we can decide what is the best path forward for a project like this. Any questions? I know I tried to keep it short. I can be verbose.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Has the tax credit program changed at all with the changing federal policies?
It has, but actually, ironically, it's gotten better. Surprisingly. Now, it doesn't mean that the gap funding sources have gotten any less, and that's the gap funding, at least considerations, are largely because right now that is the only thing that's being financed is largely affordable housing projects. So there's an overwhelming need, but there's also an overwhelming demand for those resources, and those resources are just in general challenged. We're working on a community land trust project up in Redmond, and I was just informing our land trust folks here that we finally got the full funding for that, but it was like pulling teeth trying to get all those dollars in. But the federal tax credits actually, so the value of those 4% have actually gone up slightly. So it's positive in that regard. The whole idea of it was hatched during the original Trump administration and rehashed for this one is the opportunity zone. That's another thing that we'll see how that manifests itself. So if anything, it's actually gotten a little bit better, but it doesn't mean like the tariffs don't change the challenge of cost. Cost is going to be a massive thing, and it's something that we are being really, really, really considered about how we approach these things. So in some ways, a little bit better, but also in the other ways, it doesn't make it any easier. Of course. Any other questions, comments? Cool. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the time and great to finally meet some of you.
All right, thank you very much. That was really helpful. So look forward to hearing more. Okay, next up, we have our, let's see, district update. That will be with Michelle Cuddebuck, and I believe she is on Zoom tonight. So if we can bring Michelle in.
Hi there.
Hey, there she is.
Let me share my screen.
There's a lot of you.
Uh-oh, don't do that. Oh yeah, there is a lot. That's pretty crazy. Okay, let's see.
There we go.
Right. All right. So I'm just going to share some brief updates after we concluded our staffing changes last year and the budget reductions that we made to bring staff in line with enrollment. We have some updates to the way schools might look this year. So I wanted to have a moment to share that. And I'll also share our professional development plan to support some of these changes and our ongoing goals that we have. So in our elementary schools, well, let me back up for a minute. So across the district, we set class size targets of 25, average class size targets of 25. So we brought our staffing in line with enrollment projections. And at some of our sites was the need for additional multi-age classrooms. Also known as blends. We've had multi-age or blended classrooms across the district for a number of years, but we're definitely increasing the number of classrooms that will be multi-age in the coming year. So we have committed to consistent grade bands across the district. So we have, at some schools, we have K and 1 will be multi-age classrooms. And in some places, they'll still have what we call a straight kindergarten and a straight 1 and maybe one K1 multi-age classroom, depending on their specific enrollment needs and the number of students they have in the different grades. And we'll have across all of our sites, second and third grade multi-age classrooms. And then again, at some sites we'll have blended fourth and fifth grade classrooms, and some sites their enrollment needs dictate straight fourth and fifth grades based on the number of kids that they have. So we'll see an increase in these grade band blends across the district. What that affords is an opportunity for our teachers to work even more closely together than they have in the past across the district to bring curriculum aligned across all of our elementary schools. So we have a new language arts curriculum this year that we are implementing, and elementary principals and our K-8 principals met in June to look at that new curriculum, create a 2-year what we call scope and sequence, that curriculum to be implemented so that students over the course of this year and the next year, due to the blends, we can ensure that repeated units of study. The principals took on to ensure consistency for all of our kids. What you'll see are 2 different implementation models in the schools, depending on their unique needs and strengths of their staff, and then using some additional reading specialist and math specialist time that they already had in their schedules to support the blended multi-age classes depending on the subject area. So some schools will be using what we call a subject specialization model. So that's where teachers in their grade level teams will specialize in a specific subject area. So one might, if there's a 3-person team, one might focus on math, another one on language arts, and another one on social studies and science. And then the students will rotate. So the students will, or sometimes the teachers rotate and the students stay in the class. But the idea is that they're on a team, and the students have the benefit of learning from multiple educators who can specialize in one specific subject. We also have schools who are looking at more of a homeroom based model where they have the same teacher, like we think about, all day and for all of their subjects. And then we have some staff pushing in to provide small group instruction that can be at students' specific grade level. So language arts, social studies, and science is just the nature of those subjects afford they lend themselves better to multi-age learning, whereas math really builds upon itself. And so that's where we'll see kids probably still separated by grade level through small group work or the subject specialization with the different teachers. So those are the different models we'll see at different schools, and its sites do have the autonomy to choose which model works best for them. One model for second and third grade, let's say, and another model for fourth and fifth, just depending on their needs and the staffing that they have. Before I go on, are there questions about the element?
I do, Michelle. So for families that might be reticent about blended classrooms, what kind of engagement are we doing throughout the year to kind of check in with them to see how it's going besides the normal parent-teacher conferences and school nights?
Yeah, good question. So we have great communication back and forth between our parents and teachers and principals. So we encourage parents to reach out at any time they have concerns. Updates as they normally do on what the units of study and curriculum that they are engaging kids in throughout the year. So we really try to have a lot of communication going back and forth. The research does show that multi-age blended classrooms show as good or sometimes better results than what we think of traditional straight grade. We did send out a newsletter to parents in July that explained what they could expect, what the blends would look like, these types of models that we'll be running, what that might actually look like for their kids on a day-to-day basis, and what the research indicates, how blends the strengths they have for kids. Throughout the year, we'll be sending out more communication to parents, and we can definitely answer any questions they might have. At this point, we don't have like parent nights per se planned at a district level, but we're definitely, if we hear the need and if there's a need expressed, we are open to whatever our community needs as far as needing more communication. Every school site runs their open houses. Principals will include information about what the blends look like there. We have the parent-teacher conferences pretty quickly in November this year, and then again in February or March, I believe. So those are touch points as well.
I had a
Blends,
question.
the trails is all blended, all right, so it's not a new model, and we've had Walker and Bellevue more recently have also had blended classrooms. So while it hasn't, and it's been a number of years since Hellman has had blended classrooms. So I think some of our families, it's new to them, but our teachers are very skilled. So I'm sure it'll be pretty seamless for the kids.
Michelle, I had a question. Does the blended classroom format have the potential to allow for a more flexible learning pace for an individual child? So if there's a kinder coming in who's soaking up math like a sponge, can they push into the first grade group or first grade level of math? Or is there any difficulty around that?
There is difficulty around that. There's always opportunities, even in a traditional kind of straight grade model, for acceleration, and that takes specific metrics to be met to ensure that the student is for sure ready for like a single subject whole grade acceleration, for example. Using is differentiation, so they will, as kids need to go deeper on a certain topic, we like to extend instead of just jumping to the next grade and understand those grade level standards on a deeper level rather than jumping them straight ahead. So teachers, there's potential, Russell. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I mean, it does happen now. We have some kids who meet those metrics to do single subject acceleration and matriculate through that at a faster pace. They in order for that to happen. Okay, middle school. So the middle school has quite a bit of restructuring this year. They are going from 3 7th and 8th grade teams down to 2, and each will be slightly larger for a year or two while the enrollment is projected to continue to decline at the middle school. So is they've added a third smaller team. So it's sense that it's serving a focus group of students, and it will be integrated instruction across core subjects. So they'll have a smaller team of teachers, 2 teachers, who will instruct in all of their core subjects, as opposed to a larger team which has, you can see language arts, math, science, social studies, and Spanish. So they rotate through 5 teachers on the larger team. So this provides a much smaller home base, which would serve a lot of students better than being on a larger team with a lot more teachers that they navigate. So that provides a great opportunity for kids who really thrive in a smaller environment to have just a couple of teachers who really know them well over the course of the 2 years. So we're excited to be able to meet needs better in that way for those kids that'll serve. They have reduced the number of encore class periods, which are what they call their electives, and that is due to less kids. What they have lost is leadership is no longer offered as an encore class, so potentially that could come back, or there still would be leadership opportunities in the class per se. And what they are continuing is their strong 2-year model of the 7th and 8th grade loop. So those students stay with that team of teachers for 2 years, and they do have quite a community that they build. And then we're preserving the 6th grade 2-team model, and all across we're hoping to continue to support stronger relationships and academic continuity for all kids.
Sorry, can I just clarify on the encore? So does that mean per student the number of classes is fewer, or just that one subject is no longer allowed, offered?
The students will still have the same number of encore classes.
Okay.
But leadership will not be one of the choices anymore. So they'll still have WAMs, video production, their art classes, orchestra, band, and we just had less class periods because we have less kids at the school.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how that third smaller team is selected?
I'm not intimately involved in the selection of students. I would ask that the middle school speak to that when they come present. What I understand from it is based on student needs. So they look at all of the individual student needs, and if maybe students have shown that they need perhaps more attention academically or behaviorally, or their attendance, or there's a higher level of attention needed, so that a smaller team can focus more greatly on kind of case managing kids, as teachers operate as case managers to hold those kids and make sure that they get all the attention they need. I think it's very individualized, but I don't want to overspeak for the middle school, as they are the ones who have created that structure. The high school program, we have not seen a significant shift in the structure of the high school itself. We have, due to the average class size targets of 25, we did see some staffing reductions there. Also that would be some less class periods, not necessarily less offerings. We're actually looking at expanding some offerings to bring some new electives to the high school. But it was really done based on enrollment numbers and student interest. So all students fill out their course forecasting forms. They put down their preferences for the types of electives they'd like to take and the courses they'd like to take. And so based on those, we did see a reduction in some types of class offerings. And we have less students. Well, high school actually is trending pretty flat right now. So we might be up actually. If all of the kids who we are anticipating show up, we might have increased enrollment at the high school. So we're working closely with the high school staff for what that means as far as adding a little bit of staffing back to make sure they have all of the sections that they need to accommodate all of the kids that we weren't expecting, which is a great problem to have. So we are right in the midst of the enrollment. As you know, teachers come back next week and families are still registering and returning students are still registering as well. People do need to register their students every year for school. And that's how we know where to place them and how many that we expect to have. We want to make sure we have seats for kids and schedules ready for the first day of school on August 25th. So there's my plug. If you haven't registered yet, please register. That will help us in our planning. And then professional development focus areas for the year. We are focusing on ensuring that professional learning communities or are used effectively and that those are a great use of our teachers. We have early out schedule on Wednesdays. We have kids release early so that teachers have this time for professional learning communities. So we're investing learning and focus in ensuring that those are focusing on what we want students to learn, how we assess and know that if they already know it, and being really responsive to student needs and using data to inform our instruction. So we are putting some efforts into revitalizing the best use of time they can be to achieve student outcomes that are increased. We also have science of reading. We're continuing with the elementary school. We have a new language arts curriculum that we're implementing that is aligned with the science of reading. And so teachers will be digging into that curriculum. We have one for kind of the core comprehension, content rich, so it has aligned areas with our science and social studies units. And then we have another curriculum for the phonics or word study portion of their language arts block. So teachers will be learning more about that curriculum next week when they return and implementing that with support from our instructional coach, of course, principals, and then we have time district every month for teachers to get their grade band partners and dig into that curriculum more, reflect on how it's working for kids, share student work, and have that professional dialogue where they can support each blend implementation of the new curriculum. And then at secondary, we're building the knowledge base and instructional practice implementation. So we're starting with our admin, who will all participate in a series of workshops to build their knowledge of what adolescent reading literacy looks like based on the science of reading. And then we'll move into working with a group of teachers who would like to work through a individualized coaching model to start learning more about what the science of reading looks like in a secondary classroom. And then we continue our work with equity mindset systems and practices. So we are continuing to integrate universal design for learning, also known as UDL, strategies across all of our classrooms K-12. So we want to make sure that tier one, that core instruction that all kids get is highly accessible, it's engaging, and kids have multiple means to access the curriculum, but also to show their learning. So big picture pieces of universal design for learning. And so we'll continue to focus on implementing those strategies across all classrooms. And those are the updates I have. I'm happy to answer more questions. Okay.
I have one
Go
quick
ahead.
question. You mentioned being able to offer some new opportunities at the high school for extracurriculars. What are those?
Well, they're still in the works, so I'm a little hesitant to put it out, but we are really have an interest in expanding our CTE offerings. So we are looking at opportunities that would create pathways for kids for their post-secondary success. I know that Francisco, our intern, has been in talks with RCC about perhaps a certificated program where kids would earn a professional certificate in perhaps health industry field. Again, I don't want to say too much. There's exciting things in the works, but none of them are solidified yet. But we are looking at mostly CTE. So as a district, we've been talking a lot about how do we help grow our own educators. How do we help kids who want to enter the education profession? So we're exploring opportunities there. And then also in the health field, exploring some opportunities there as well. So hopefully we'll have some solidified classes for you to share at your next meeting.
I'm very excited to hear more.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have a presentation on the Pacific Rim Bowl. Steve Mitzel, you're up. Got all these goodies here.
Yeah, while I'm firing this up, you do have some goodies there. Those are what I call fortune cookie cookies. So they're cookies, they taste like a fortune cookie, but not shaped like a fortune cookie. And the first time I went to Japan was in 2005, and they gave me a box of those, and my family devoured them, and here we are in 2025, and it's the same logo and the same cookies, and they still are amazing, and my family still devours them. So
You're sure they weren't made in 2020?
that's possible, but I had some, and they tasted great.
We'll eat them anyway.
Can't say. So yeah, I think most of you know what the Pacific Rim Bowl is, but for those that do not, it is what I call a cultural exchange. Of course, it's based around football, and it has been since 1988. But there's a saying, you'll see it on our stickers, you'll see it on our T-shirts that say it's more than just a game. As our students will share, we got handily destroyed on Friday night by Pacific Rim Bowl Japan. But at the end of the day, it's about so much more than that. And some of the pictures I'll share with you are going to just be through the week. It started on, I don't know if these are in order. Let's see if I can get to that one. So this is when they arrived. They arrived on Sunday, and this is really, the game is on Friday night, obviously, but it's a whole series of micro events that happen all week. And thank you, Superintendent Hattrick, for attending as many of those as you could. I think it's the first time we've had a superintendent that's attended all of those events and really got the full picture of what happens that week and got to see the first moments that they meet their families on Sunday to the last moments when they depart on Sunday morning a week later, and there's tears and hugs and the whole gamut of emotions. So this is our families waiting for their arrival, and they were about a half an hour late, and it was very hot, so we were getting cranky there, but it was, and then it just turns into chaos for about 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden everybody's gone. So it's just this well-oiled machine. Everybody knows what they're doing and how to do it. So this is when they arrived. And then we went from there. They would go home for just a moment, and then they meet us out at Immigrant Lake for a welcome barbecue.
So,
and this
sorry, Riley's going to come over?
Yeah, I think we're just going to chill. I mean, I told Liza to text me. She wants to hang out.
Oh, who's her man? Who's her man?
I'll wait. I could have just said, hey, Michelle, you might want to mute. We go out to Immigrant Lake, and really what it is about just getting all these boys. We have 47 boys from Japan, 55 from Ashland and Phoenix talent, and we just kind of throw them out in the field. They don't know how to speak each other's languages, but in about 5 minutes, you'd think they were best friends because it's just a mob of bodies, and they're throwing footballs around and Frisbees around, and they're introducing our boys to games that are played in Japan and likewise for us. And they like to eat. We had a lot of food, and they devoured the food that we had and came back for seconds and thirds and more. Interesting, there's an individual right here. I'm just going to share this moment. This individual right here is a player. He's 18 years old. He's headed to college to play football in the fall. And I have a picture that I didn't include, and I should have, of I'm holding him as a baby. He's not even 2 years old in the airport in 2009. And I've known his dad since 2005, so they came to the airport, and I held that individual right there for about 45 minutes before we got on the plane to fly home, and he was just a baby, and now here he is coming back at 18 years old and playing here in Ashland. So it's definitely it's much more than just the exchange. So anyway, we had the barbecue. Monday, we go really just let the boys get their first practice in and then spend some time with their host families. So there's really not a lot planned for Monday. It's more about just getting them acclimated and spending some time with their families and getting to know their host brothers, host sisters. Tuesday, we host a peace ceremony, and this is a great picture of some of our VIPs that were invited to this particular event. Unfortunately, I think, Russell, you had to leave before we got to the pictures, but I know I saw you there at one point. So this has been something that we've been doing since 2015, I believe, and we started it here in Ashland. And really what it is about this moment to commit to continued peace between our nations, and we do it through the kids, and they make the commitment. And in Japan, it's actually a ceremony done in Hiroshima, at the Peace Park, at Ground Zero of the bomb, and they do this crane exchange there, and so it really hits home when you're actually doing it there. I've done it twice since we started this tradition. So ours is done at Lithia Park. Our impact is this individual here, Hideko. She was a Hiroshima survivor. She was actually in the city when the bomb hit, and she lives in Medford. So she gets up and she speaks to the boys. She doesn't speak to us. She's talking to the boys the whole time she's up there. And for her, it's about that continued peace, that commitment to continued peace, and seeing these and doing it through the kids. So we had a great turnout from our VIPs. We had our mayor and President Bailey and Superintendent Barry from Phoenix Talent, and Coach Hall, Coach Nagel, Roy Saigo, who was the former president of SOU, who actually was, I believe his family and him were interned at one point during World War II. So he tells his story. And really it's about just making sure that our boys understand the history behind this relationship between the United States and Japan, and the miracle that it is that we are so tight today. So we do that, and then we had the taiko drums. Tuesday night we have the Kitchell Games, which is a regional, it's a moment for all the teams in the region to come together in Ashland for a 7-on-7 tournament and alignment challenge in honor of Dave Kitchell, who passed away in 2007. And he founded that, and it was just a chance for the boys to all get together. And some years we had some girls on the team too. They get together for the first time for the season in July, and they play 7-on-7, and the linemen have their challenge, and there's always a winner and t-shirts and trophies and all that good stuff. So everybody in the region looks forward to it. It was really interesting to see how quickly our Japan players bonded with the other teams. They all of a sudden were big South Medford fans, and we weren't thrilled about that, but they got really tight with the other teams, and they all showed up on Friday night. South Medford showed up, North Medford showed up, Eagle Point showed up, and I think they all went and sat on the Japan side. But so we have the Kitchell Games on Tuesday night, and then I don't have pictures from the next couple of days because the Japan team does some things on their own. They go up to Crater Lake, and they spend a half a day up at Crater Lake on Wednesday, and then they have practice. And on Thursday, they go up to Grants Pass, and they ride the jet boats on the Rogue River. And then Friday's game day. And this is the pregame ceremony where we introduce the coaches. And then, well, let me share this with you really quick. This is a great picture. So they were practicing, and there was a mix-up in the schedule, and our soccer team showed up and said, hey, we're supposed to have the turf tonight. And the Japan coaches were all like, we're supposed to be here practicing tonight. So we worked it out, and towards the end of the night, the Japan team was heading midfield to the north, and soccer was heading midfield to the south. And then as we started wrapping up, we got them all together and took this picture. So this is just Japan with our soccer team. So this picture's never happened in the history of this program. So that was a great picture to have. So then Friday night was the game. I haven't seen the stadium like this probably for 15 years. It was full. The stadium was full. Bleachers on the north were full. South was full. It was amazing to see this many folks in the stands there. And then Saturday is rest and recover. They spend the day with their families, And Sunday morning, they get back on the bus and head back to San Francisco. And they usually go to the 49ers facility and meet with the general manager, John Lynch, and do a tour and spend some time out in the field there before they get on a plane and fly home. So it's a whirlwind. So anyway, any questions? Or do you want to add anything? Or the students could add anything?
I was going to talk about the student perspective in my report. So.
Perfect. Superintendent Patrick? Okay. Russell, your report?
I did actually. I really enjoyed the ceremony that I got. I really enjoyed the portion of the ceremony that I got to be there for before I was called away. But it was really powerful hearing from the perspectives of these people who were going through those experiences, both in Japan and then in the U.S. and being interred. It really hit pretty deep. So
Yeah.
I thank you for helping facilitate it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
I just want you to know that I came to the football game and I liked it a lot, even though we got slammed. It was really fun because the crowd was so big.
It was.
And it was festive, and there was a good feeling there. So you and many others, I'm sure.
Oh, it's an army of people to pull this off.
Can only imagine. Yeah.
I thank my wife. She's at Brett tonight watching a show, but I'm glad she's still married to me come Sunday because she has all kinds of reasons not to be. Anything else? All right. Well, I look forward to your reports and your reports. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, so looks like we don't have anyone from OC or AA here tonight. Okay. So in that case, we will move on to our board reports. Would anybody like to kick us off?
What I've got to report is that I attended along with a couple colleagues our summer board conference for OSBA, which is great fun. Lots to catch up on what happened, especially with the legislature over the summer and how that will impact us. And I finished up my mandatory trainings too. That's what I've got to report.
Great. Okay. So since the July board meeting, I've been studying board governance and rules surrounding public meetings. I've been making my way through existing policy. This is a boring report, but I have to do this stuff, so it's okay. I've been doing some school visits with principals, which I will complete in September once school's underway. I had a good informational meeting with our Director of Business Services, Sherry, to deepen my understanding of the financials. I participated in the board retreat at the district office where we received training and held discussions about annual goals for the superintendent, the board itself, and the district, and became familiar with the superintendent evaluation process and talked through and fine-tuned the board and superintendent operating agreement. I know this is all old stuff for you guys, but it's all new for me. So I also attended the Oregon School Board Association with Dan and with Jordan and with Administrative Secretary Holly Rosser, who was quite wonderful. And my sessions included exciting things like governance, finance, policy, public meetings, legislative outcomes pertaining to education, rural schools, vision-directed planning, and executive evaluation. I am currently reading a book from the high school curriculum, Educated by Tara Westover. It's quite something, yes. In closing, I'm excited for the start of school. Yay! I'm looking forward to the kickoff breakfast next week and, of course, my own continued learning. And I will also be completing the Safe Schools training and a volunteer background check. I have a little happy smiley face next to that because I haven't done it yet. Okay.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yes.
Okay.
Ditto on that OSBA conference. A lot of information shared, so thank you all for the opportunity. I have met with the previous organizers, or I should say organizing committee for the Youth Activities and Academic Levy. So I look forward to continuing to bring information, invite you all to some of the meetings as we ramp up for May.
Yes, also enjoyed the board retreat. I liked having our first significant time of work together and coming into a rhythm and understanding of how to work together as a board. I'm looking forward to our term together. I think it's going to be a good one. And on the note of the board goals, the goals that we set for ourselves, one of the things that I'm most excited about that we're planning on doing coming forward is some community listening sessions and getting those happening more regularly, so there's an open channel of communication for community members, and so they feel as heard as possible. The other big thing that I got to participate in, was invited to participate in, thankfully, was a meeting with the staffers for Senator Merkley, two very capable and impressive people, Donna Black and Becca DeMonte, and it was a really interesting meeting to sit in on. A lot of insights. The couple points that really stuck out for me was one, some relief that everyone was feeling about those funds that were locked up being released. And then the flip of that was realizing that they didn't actually even know in the Senate at that point yet that those funds weren't fully released, which was sort of news that happened in that meeting. It's a very mixed thing. My takeaway from it was a very mixed thing coming forward for us. There's a lot of things that are in place that give us hope for some stability in funding, and then there's obvious challenges too. So we'll just keep tiptoeing along this tightrope and see what happens. But yeah.
All right, thank you, Russell. All right, and for my sake, other than the board retreat, which was 2 days and was really great to spend with all of us here at the dais, I kind of stepped back and decided I was just going to be a community member, and I'm going to hark back to when we first brought Joseph in, and Dan, I paraphrase, said, Joseph is going to Ashland the heck out of Ashland. So what I did this month was Ashland the heck out of Ashland. So I went to performances at OSF and at the Cabaret. I ran 30-some miles up on Mount Ashland for the Skew Outback race. I went to multiple performances by the city band. What else did I do? I had to write it all down here. Oh, and being a true Ashlander, I spent a week on the coast because that is also a very Ashland thing to do. And I will also add, one thing I did not do this whole month was breathe in smoke. So I want to just give a little shout out to that. And that was pretty much my month. So it was a good one. And now I'm ready to get back to school. All right, so I think that's it for board reports. And next, public comment. I assume we don't have anything this evening? No? All right, moving right along. And we have our student board representatives with us tonight.
All right, so as Steve Mitzel already touched on, obviously, we had the Pacific Rim Bowl happen, which did result in a pretty bad loss for us, but it's okay because there were lots of positive things that came out of that, obviously, and I kind of wanted to touch on the student side of that. I know that it was a super anticipated event for the students. The atmosphere was super electric, and it was the most packed that I think anyone at the high school currently or that has graduated in the recent years has ever seen the stadium. So that was a really amazing event for our community and for the school district. And then Fresh Start is in full swing this week. The counselors retreat happened last Saturday at Willow Wind, which is different. Usually it's up at Lake of the Woods, but we made the best of it, and we had a good outcome. Lots of students attended that. It was super informative, and we learned what to do at Fresh Start. We've had 2 sessions for the freshmen already completed, and the last one starts tomorrow morning. I got to be a counselor for the first session, and he did the first 2 sessions, so he came back earlier today from that. And I really experienced a huge change in the freshmen from the time they got there to the time they left. It's about 36 hours. And when they get there, they're super shy, they're super reserved. They stick to their friend groups or they stay alone if they don't know anybody. I remember experiencing that as a freshman. And I remember seeing, even by the end of the night of the first day, so many freshmen expanding the people they were talking to, expanding the groups they were in, people participating in open mic and doing karaoke, even though like singing is not really their thing. So I think it's a super awesome thing for introducing the freshmen into our student body and our school culture. And what I saw at Fresh Start was a super positive impact. And I'm excited to see all the freshmen that I met in the upcoming school year. And then we also are preparing for the return to school. 9th graders come back on the 25th, and they'll be met with their Fresh Start counselors and leadership students. So they'll see a lot of familiar faces, and they go to their classes and can kind of figure out how everything works at the high school a day before everybody's on campus. And the official first day is the 26th. And I know our student body is looking forward to that, and that's kind of what we have coming up.
Yeah, before I give my report, I wanted to also just emphasize what Alice was saying about Fresh Start, where it really is magical the way you see the 9th graders expanding so rapidly. It's something I always love to see, and I hope to see in the future as well. And I was going to talk about the construction, which we have been talking about for plenty of board meetings, but is finally closing up. Me, Alice, and our senior class presidents and student body presidents all got invited to a tour of the construction on the quad and the surrounding buildings from Steve Mitzel and Chris Brown, who were here earlier. And a picture was shown earlier about the seismic retrofitting that had taken place. It's long overdue, and hopefully the buildings won't crumble now when there's an earthquake. But it was also really interesting the way they did that, because it gives the students an opportunity to see what that type of construction actually looks like. Generally, it's on the inside of buildings, and they worked around the perimeter of the building on this project, which I found actually really interesting. And the part that most students will observe is how different and how much better the quad looks on campus. The things that really stuck out to me when we first walked on were the amount of nature that they incorporated into the upgrades. There's grass all over now in planting boxes and behind some of the features on the campus. Let's see, they planted native plants around. There's this big redwood tree that will hopefully improve the health of the tree, as well as create an opportunity for our earth science and environmental science to look at and observe. They already mentioned the shade sails and the kiosks that are going to be installed. I think both of those are amazing. The shade sails are going to provide so much more shade to the campus, and just everything so much more comfortable. And the kiosk is perfect timing, I think, because our freshmen are going to be coming in. They're all blown away by the size of the campus, and that is really just going to help. Because I wish I had that when I was coming in. I was totally lost, walked into the wrong classes a couple times. But we don't need to talk about that. And the last thing I'll touch on is that I feel so much more welcome when I walk into school. I feel like I'm meant to be there. It's more integrated into the outdoors and the trees that are growing outside everywhere in Ashland, really, which is what we have all come to love about the city.
All right, thank you. So, and I will just say, you mentioned that Fresh Start is 36 hours, and I know from my kids' experience that very few of those hours are spent sleeping. So kudos to you for actually being here today. Thank you, guys. Right.
I just want to point out, you had pointed out, I haven't thought about this before, that we're aiming for a culture of belonging, and buildings that are under construction don't help toward that. So having them completed is huge. Thank you for bringing that up.
All right, thank you. Okay, and next is our superintendent report with Superintendent Patrick.
All right, good evening. So first, I apologize for not mentioning this last month, but in accordance with policy IICA, want to let you know that we have a soccer team on a trip right now to Crescent City from today until Saturday. So, what's that? Well, good. Thank you. First mention is Pacific Rim Bowl. I've been looking forward to this since I started in Ashland, and I had no idea what a big event it was. So I do want to thank coaches, players, the Japan team, Phoenix Town School District, and the Pacific Rim Bowl board for all of their hard work in making this happen. Steve is not going to be happy with me right now, but I also want to publicly thank him and his wife Michelle for all of the work they did to make this happen. Huge undertaking. I've never seen, I don't think they slept for a full week. So he's not kidding when he's very lucky that she's still around. So huge public thanks to both of them. And to everybody who came out and supported all the events during the week. It was incredible. I've never seen that stadium so full and Lithia Park full for the peace ceremony. It was just incredible. So can't wait for the next event in 4 years here and 2 years in Japan, and it was just incredible. On August 2nd, we participated in the Ashland alumni events. So again, thanks to Steve Mitzel and Francisco Atanas, they provided tours to the AHS alumni on the morning of the 2nd. So they toured through, I don't know where all, the areas they could that were not under construction. So auditorium, gyms, theater, turf, and locker rooms. So they got a big tour. And then Francisco and I got to spend the evening with them at GrizzFest, and that was a lot of fun to meet a lot of alumni. And I believe the alumni from the, I don't want to say oldest, but I already just did. So oldest class was 1955, I think. So that was really fun just to be there that evening. Also wanted to recognize the school board retreat. Thank you all for taking 2 full days out of your schedule. I agree it was great, getting better acquainted as a team, our new team, learn together, develop agreements and norms, and I agree it's going to be a really great board and term. And maybe you all will just keep running and running and running, and we'll just keep doing this. It was incredible. So thank you all for doing that. I want to update you a little bit about district equity committees, because this has been talked about for a few different months, and it's changed multiple times. So follow along with this one. So House Bill 2453 has amended Senate Bill 732, which is the requirement that Oregon school districts convene a district equity committee. Under Senate Bill 732, district equity committees were to be board committees, requiring board action, public meetings, and many required steps. But now, under the new House Bill 2453, the required committees are now superintendent advisory committees. So that requires far more or far less oversight. The reason that was changed really was to provide confidentiality around district equity committees, so that they can convene and do the work that they need without having public meetings. So I'll be assembling the committee soon, and we'll report back to the board progress checks once this is established. As Russell mentioned, had the great honor of hosting a roundtable with Senator Merkley's education policy advisor. This was at their request, so they reached out to us. So I was joined by Russell, our business manager, Sherry, board secretary, and then superintendents from other districts around the region. Actually received an email from them today thanking us for our involvement, and we're gonna have follow-up meetings virtually just to continue the conversation. It's great that they're incredibly interested in the needs and experiences of Southern Oregon superintendents and school districts, and want to keep that conversation going so that the senator can continue to just be informed of what's going on and continuing to kind of push our narrative forward. So I think that was great, and I'll continue to keep you informed as that progresses. So hopefully that relationship will keep going. Also, the 25-26 school year officially kicked off with our school district leadership retreat, which was this past Monday and Tuesday. All administrators in the district gathered for the 2 days for collaborative learning. It's always a great time to just learn together and establish some norms and goals for the school year. We spent a day re-engaging and learning about professional learning communities, as Michelle mentioned, and how we can support instruction and student learning at higher levels. It got me really excited for the school year and how much we are going to be investing in our staff so that students get everything they need to be able to thrive. And then just finally, as I conclude my report, I want to remind everyone that school is about to start. I'll make the second plug. The first day for students is August 25th. If you've not re-enrolled your child for school, please check in with your child's school. Our staff return on Monday for a week of professional development. I know that last year, and this is for the board, but also for the public, I know that last year felt bumpy, to say the least. But I have to tell you that we're excited for a fresh start and a renewed focus on student achievement, healthy community for all, and district growth and sustainability. These are our established priorities for the school year, and I want to talk briefly about each. So instructional excellence is a focus on the instruction that all students receive, an emphasis on professional development and support for our staff, and a belief that all students can and will learn as we monitor that through data and results. Healthy community focuses on dignity and belonging for all, partnerships, unity through breaking down silos so we truly learn, lead, and teach through collaboration and a belief that in Ashland we are one. And growth and stability is a continued focus on financial stabilization, increasing educational options for all, exploring opportunities to support families and students, and identifying additional funding sources for sustainability. We did all of the hard lifting last year, and as we welcome staff and students back in the coming weeks, I hope everyone has a renewed energy, hope, and excitement for things to come. To our staff, students, and families, new and returning, I want to welcome you to the 25-26 school year, and I'm hoping that this is the best year the district has experienced yet. The possibilities are truly limitless. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're very quiet this evening. It's probably good. All right, thank you. And next up, we have our finance report. And Sherry, oh, there you are. You're on Zoom tonight. So, hello.
Hi there. And thank you for allowing me to participate via Zoom tonight. Let me get my report here. Can you all see that okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to start with our revenue. At this stage of the year, there's not anything too exciting to report since we're just getting into the year and received a ton of revenue yet. So, no picture on how we're going to be trending on our revenue perspective. As I noted in my comments, we are seeing an increase in our flow through from the ESD, and that is due to the fact that April Harrison, who's our special ed director, found that she was able to acquire some of the special services that she needed in-house rather than contracting with the ESD. So we'll receive that funding through them as flow-through dollars. So that increases our intermediate sources. And then on our state sources, our state school fund is coming in higher compared to where we budgeted. And in comparison, comparing the two estimates, it looks like the main factors driving that are student enrollment across the state is a little bit lower. So that increases the amount of money that's available to spread out to the districts. They made some adjustments to there's a funding kind of percentage formula that they use, and the state has made some adjustments to that. And so, as you know, we typically get several estimates throughout the year. And so I would not be surprised if that changes as we go throughout the year. But so far, otherwise, things are looking pretty stable. On local sources, we won't really have an idea of where our property taxes are coming in at, if they're coming until we get past the November and December collection point. So we'll keep an eye on that and make any adjustments we need as we go forward. This is just more of a detail of our revenue, just so you can see where the funding sources are coming from. And before I go into expenditures, do you guys have any questions about the revenue? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So on the expenditure side, kind of the same story as with the revenue. Until we get the September payroll in, we won't really have a really good idea of where we're trending on our payroll side. So as we move throughout the year, we keep an eye on that because that's our major expenditure source. And so we'll keep a really close eye on that and make any adjustments as we need to. Right now, it's looking like we're going to end the year at 2.7, almost 2.8 million. But I want to emphasize that is very preliminary. And so, as we monitor our revenues coming in and our expenditures going out, I'm sure that I will be updating you as the months go by, just as we actually start spending as we go throughout the year. And like I said, until we get that first payroll run in, I'm always a little bit nervous about putting out a projection for the ending fund balance. And then this is where our expenditures are. And so that gives you a picture of what we've budgeted, what we're projecting based on the encumbrances in the system. And then there's a comparison. You can see what we did in 24-25 as well. And we're still looking like we're on target to end the 24-25 school year at about a 1.4 to 1.5 million ending fund balance, which is a little bit higher than what we had budgeted. I still won't be have a final number on our ending fund balance for 24-25 until we're through with the audit. So once the auditors come in and start going through everything, there are always adjustments that they make, which is a very normal process. So I won't give you a final update on 24-25 until we are actually through the audit. Any questions on expenditures?
Hi, Sherry. I have a question on the audit. Have you already scheduled the visit from the auditors?
Yes, they're going to be here the week of October 13th.
Great, thank you.
Yep. And then this just gives you a picture of each of our funds where we're at expenditure-wise. This doesn't show the revenue. I will be working on a revenue report that I'll bring to you guys next month so that you can see where we're trending on revenues for each of our other funds. So all of our grants, all of our special revenues, food service, debt service, our facilities fund, or capital projects, which is our Fund 400, and our health insurance fund. I like this report because it lets me keep an eye on our appropriations. And so as I monitor that to make any adjustments, if we're looking like we're trending too high in one major function area, and if we need to make any adjustments, this report helps me to do that. And that is just a picture of where we are right now. Do you guys have any other questions about our financial report? All in all, I feel like we've kind of come over the top and we're trending toward a much more stable financial picture.
So Sherry, can we just touch on the note that you're more confident that we won't have to take more draws on the loan? So
Yes.
That would, assuming everything continues to go the way we want, that would put our total debt at, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the number right here.
It would be just a little over
Five.
5.2 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5,220,000.
Yeah.
Great. Much better than expected.
Yes. And then, so I'm also keeping an eye on, how the reduction in potential expenditures and any increase in revenue that we have, how that's going to affect how much of a loan we need to take out to backfill for that. Because as you, I'm sure, remember, the original loan is a tax anticipation note. And so we have to pay that back in full in the first part of December. And so depending on where we are, looking at revenue and expenditure wise, will we have to take out a full faith and credit loan for the full 5.2 million? Can we maybe reduce that? I'm hoping that we can reduce that amount, but I will keep you informed as we go through each month and let you know where I feel like we're trending in that area as well.
Sherry, can you talk us through cash flow, at least as far out as you can see into the year, and what we need to be looking out for?
Cash flow right now, I feel like we're doing well. I don't think there are any major issues that you need to be concerned about at this point. For me, the only kind of wild card is capital projects, because things at the end of last school year, and so it's taken us, a bit to kind of settle out, okay, what should have been in the capital projects fund, how much is actually owed to the contractors. But I feel like we're getting a much better handle on that, working with HMK on that. And so as far as cash flow, I don't feel like we're going to see any concerns as we go through the year. If anything comes up, I will definitely let you know as soon as I see anything that I feel like is what I would look at.
I'm just curious, when you're talking about the state school fund, you mentioned that the statewide enrollment has dropped. So does that translate into an increase in that ADM number, where it's, how it's divided among students, or how is it?
So when the student population decreases statewide, that means the state is not having to pay out as much money across the state to all of the school districts. And so, or to the districts who have declining enrollment. And so that increases the amount of money available in the state school fund that they can then redistribute out to everyone. And so looking at like what we get per student, when we did the budget, it looked like it was about 11,133,000 per student. And the new estimate that we got at the end of June, it was at 11,157. So it does result in the district getting a little bit more per student, because that, what the state is estimating that they have to spend out has increased so that they can adjust that.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Sherry. I think that's all we have.
Yes.
All right, so next up we have new business, and the only item I have is the 2025-26 district and board goals. So Superintendent Hattrick will start us off.
Yeah, and I thought I would clear my throat first. I thought I would just give, for the sake of the public, just a quick overview of how we came to this. So at the board retreat, in discussing district goals, board goals, and superintendent goals, obviously our first task was to figure out vertical alignment so that we're all kind of talking the same language. This also happened during our strategic planning discussion. And so with the help of our OSBA trainer, we as a group decided that we have an established vision, which is inspiring learning for life. We have an established mission statement, empowering students to be lifelong learners, responsible citizens, and stewards of the world. We may want to discuss that in the future. But for the time being, the district has already established goals through integrated guidance, which is the integrated application that every school district and Oregon is required to do. It begins with a needs assessment, engagement with constituents. And so those had already been developed. And so I believe it was a wise decision on behalf of the board to say the experts, who are our teachers, our educators, people that are working in our schools, have already done the work. And so the board decided to adopt the integrated guidance goals as our district goals, which are the main themes: improve student achievement outcomes, increase the rate that students, staff, and families report experiencing a safe, welcoming, supportive, and inclusive environment. And the third, advance financial growth and sustainability. So those, excuse me, would be the district goals that are brought forth for the board. Board goals: informed decision-making, build trust, and advance financial growth and sustainability, again, in alignment with the district goals. And then you'll also see that I have draft goals for myself, which are very similar as well: instructional leadership and academic programs, climate and culture, financial growth and stability. So I present that to the board for consideration for formal adoption, and happy to answer any questions or discuss amongst yourselves.
You're mad if I just go, okay. Superintendent Hattrick, can you please, under your superintendent goals, just elaborate on what loose and tight expectations are?
Yes, there it is. Absolutely. So when I came to the district a year ago, this is for the leaders in our district. There wasn't a set expectation across the board for every school leader, department head, and so during our leadership retreat, this was something that we talked about, so establishing some loose, tight expectations. So there are some expectations that leaders have that they've got full reign to figure out how that would look. So it might be plan engagement events with families. They have full authority to figure out what that looks like in their building, but the expectation is engagement activities with families. Then there might be tight expectations that every school has to have a school improvement plan that will be reported to the board. And so those expectations will be delivered to our leadership team, and then accountability measures will be followed up. Yep.
I've got a question for you, which is now after you've been through your leadership retreat and you were at the board retreat and you've got your goals and we're going to adopt the integrated guidance as our goals, do you think there are any gaps between everybody's buy-in to that? Or what as a board should we be looking out for?
There are not gaps with our vertical alignment with goals, but they are narrow. And so I think as we continue to evaluate that, we figure out how we can also branch out wider. However, we don't want to do that in a single year, because that is a common error that districts make, is let's make our goals really, really broad and overwhelm the entire system. We don't want to overwhelm our staff. We want to really focus on the things that we're doing and focus on doing them really, really well, which is why when Michelle was talking, it was focusing on Tier 1 instruction, which is the instruction that every student gets in our schools. That is what's delivered in the classroom. So we want to focus on that to ensure that every student is getting the best instruction, and then we're going to monitor that with data and looking at student results. So rather than having a lot of goals that's super broad, we're going to overwhelm and only touch the surface of all those goals. We're going to keep the focus pretty narrow and dig as deep as we can. So that's professional learning communities, that's professional development for our staff, all of those things. So.
I'm ready to make a motion. Yeah.
Please.
Let me get to the right title. I move to adopt the Ashland School District goals for 2025-2026.
I second.
All in favor? All right, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, and I believe that was our last action item. So I come to announcements and appointments. Board member appointments, this is something new. Vice Chair Russell Hatch will serve as the board's legislative representative. Director Dan Ruby will serve as the board representative to the Ashland Schools Foundation. Thank you, Dan. And Director Jordan Rooklin and Vice Chair Russell Hatch will both serve on the Superintendent Advisory Policy Work Group. Okay, so these are appointments we don't need to vote on. The board will meet for a work session on Thursday, August 28th at 6:30 via Zoom. And the board will hold its next regular session on Thursday, September 11th at 6:30 right here in City Council chambers. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.